Welcome back. This is part 2 of Elantris episode 4. We just finished our segment, What Did He Say? And we're about to jump into Sarene's chapter.
Sarene's chapter 11.
Yep. Aeon at the top. Again, it's Aeon Ini, which, you know what? This one fits. Because it was Sarene's chapter. And that's the Aeon in her name. So,
Wonderful.
yeah. Banger.
Banger. All right.
So, we open up. This is Sarene is at Kiin's place, and it's the day of the meeting of Hrathen's old group meeting for quote unquote the last time, is how Lukel described it.
Yeah, they had said they were going to meet one more time, but then Sarene was like, she basically was like, I want to be there.
Yes. And so it's that day, and Sarene is about to get like introduced. But she's in Kiin's kitchen right now, and the nobles of this group are out in like the dining room.
Yes. It says only 5 men responded to Kiin's request. Lukel scowled at the meager turnout because before they had like 30 nobles coming out.
Yeah, Hrathen, had this group of like 30 nobles that was kind of backing their group. They eventually wanted to go public to kind of pressure Iadon into changing how the ruling system worked.
Yeah. Which is so... We really paint Iadon in such like a negative light here.
Yeah.
But you do have to realize Iadon has already set that in motion.
Yes.
So Iadon is not as incompetent a king and leader as we have made him out to be, because he's already set in motion a better way to rule. He knows his system is unstable.
Yeah.
And he basically set in motion for like 10 years after the start of that, or when he died, whichever came first.
I think it was 15 years.
Pretty sure it was 10.
Because it's already been 10 years since the Riod. I'm pretty sure it's 15 years.
It was 10 years since he made the plan.
But the plan started as soon as he took the throne.
Nah.
Yeah, at his coronation. That's why the preppy guy was there. The leader, the
preppy guy.
The leader of the Krothi Church showed up to coronate him, pretty much. And that's when he gave him the letter. I'm almost certain. Yeah, because he's coming for King Iadon's funeral.
Right.
So that's
Which would have been before Sarene's...
No.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, before
Sarene's
okay, wedding.
My lords and ladies of Erelon, see an Aelin read, holding the paper before him as if you were... oh, wait, hold up. This is going to be before this. Ah, shoot.
It's 15.
It's 15 years.
Suck it. Don't play with me, son. It's 15 years, guys. Jackson's
an idiot.
Okay, either way. So he set up a system. Like, when you think about it in the way Iadon set it up, knowing how he was doing it, the system's kind of like, it's a little quirky. Because basically, the system he set up is he wanted the ruling class to strive for their spots.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted them to fight and squabble and like try and get higher, because he felt that those people would rule best. So once he died, or 15 years after his coronation, all of their titles would be set.
Yes. And then would be hereditary.
Hereditary after that. So, like, King Iadon had a plan.
Yes.
Was it kind of like a dumb plan?
A little bit.
I think we put that up to you guys. I can see why he did it, because how else are you gonna choose who's ruling?
Yeah, well, there's also, like, maybe it wasn't a dumb plan, because you take a look at the Final Empire, and it's basically the same plan.
Yeah, but, well, kind of. It's people can become great houses and everything, but the Lord Ruler didn't, like, intend for them to like, oh, squabble and all this, and then like we're gonna set it. He was like, yo, these guys are my friends. Here's some power, and he kind of favors those lineages.
Yeah.
All 1,000 years later, sort of.
But he still lets them go at each other's throats, and
Yes.
even a great house can fall out of favor if they lose enough money.
Yeah, but I think it's more like it's easier to control a divided people.
Yeah.
And that's why the king ruler does it. Why the lord ruler does it. Different than what Iadon here.
Yeah.
But I can see the similarity.
Sorry that I keep tying everything back to Mistborn again.
No, that's fine.
Just where I am in my personal.
Don't worry about it.
It's all cosmic, right?
I guess you were saying that to them, not me.
Yeah, no, I wasn't apologizing to you. I was apologizing to well, a little bit to both, I guess.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't mind it. Every connection's a good connection.
But Lukel's kind of complaining a little bit because they only have 5 nobles there, and he's like, that's barely even worth our time.
Yeah.
And Kiin is like, you know what? Like, yeah, there's only 5 of them, but those 5 men are some of those most powerful, like, in Erelon.
Yeah.
Right now. So, like, this is a good group, and they're, good people.
Yep. It mentions what Kiin is cooking. Roast Karathum.
Katathum.
Oh, sorry, I thought that was an R. Katathum. Which is a pig.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it says it quite a bit. It's like a roasted pig. Yeah, so I'm satisfied.
Okay.
A little bit.
Okay. Some sort of boar, pig, whatever.
Yeah. So we then get introduced to Eondel,
which is the Count of Eon Plantation.
Yeah, so I actually marked this, and like, is the plantation named
after him? I assume so, because
later,
Royal's plantation is Aiel.
Yeah, which is the Aeon in Royal's name.
Yeah.
So,
like, it's Aiel Plantation, and it's the port of Aiel, and they're all his holdings, so I assume they're named after him, not...
Yeah.
It's not a coincidence, and I assume he wasn't named after them, so I assume they were named after him.
But, I mean, that port has probably been there longer than he's been alive. The region has definitely been there longer than he's been, and that is in the Aiel region of Erelon. So I don't think it's too much of a stretch to assume he was named after them rather than the other way around.
Okay.
If it is, it's hard because he was the governor of the port of Aield.
Yeah, Aield. There. It's
so I don't know. It's just like almost too coincidental.
Coincidental.
That one. Anyways, moving on. So we meet Eondel, sorry, which has Aeon, which is willpower. Yep. Anyways, we learned, and he was mentioned in Raoden's chapter as being like a military man.
Yeah.
Like he has a small military.
Yeah, it says here he's a military genius, owns a small personal army. There are only a couple hundred men in it, but they're extremely well trained.
Yeah.
And then we move over to Baron Shuden. And I'm assuming by the name, or I guess by something distinctive, either about the name or his appearance, Sarene can tell he's Jindo.
Yes.
And so she asks, like, Jindo.
It's his dark brown skin and delicate features.
Okay.
Which so obviously Shuden doesn't have an Aeon in his name, because he's Jindo.
Yeah.
That's how she knows he's Jindo, is the brown skin and delicate features. So she asks, like, oh, is he Jindo? And her uncle nods. This is all Sarene and Kiin, like, peeking in to the room from the kitchen.
Right.
Just like, oh, who's that? And they're just, like, gossiping, pretty much, which I think is funny. they go on to talk about Shuden a little bit, just like, oh, his family moved here a century ago. They control the trade routes between Jindo and Erelon, sort of thing.
Which isn't probably like a super important timeline, but I marked it anyways.
Oh, you're right. We were gonna mark those
a century ago. I don't think it's gonna tie into anything else, but
yeah,
I've been paying attention, watching for timeline stuff.
Good job. I didn't even mark it.
Thanks, man.
So good job. They then go on to Duke Royal of Ial or Ial Plantation. They talk a little bit about him. We kind of mentioned him. He has holdings over in Isle region and stuff.
Yeah, we did. Sarene was wondering why there was a Jindo here.
Oh.
And Kiin says he thinks Eidon's method of rule contradicts the heart of Shukiseg, which is why he's willing to meet with us. And I thought that was interesting. What is the heart of Shukiseg? And because we know that Shukoroth is like acceptance, and whatnot, and Shudireth is like obedience and devotion and order, you know.
Yeah, it's unity.
Okay,
it's like their main
unity.
So
what is the heart of Shukiseg, and why is King Iadon's form of government contradictory to it?
Well, I'd assume it's like love and unity.
Yeah,
and
I hate you sometimes.
I mean, just think about it for a little bit. Iadon's rule doesn't accept everyone. He only accepts the wealthy, and doesn't even unify everyone because he's splitting it up between upper class, lower class. So things are split. No one's loved. Bad stuff.
Fair enough.
So it also means that, like, before Jindo was kind of taken over by Fjordell, they probably practiced Shukiseg as like their main religion.
Yeah,
is what I'm guessing.
Yeah, I would assume so.
So you have Shukiseg in Jindo, Korath in Teod, and Shudireth in Fjordell. Was kind of like
the beginning points of all of
and
these.
Then the Jesker and the Jesker mysteries in Duladen. Whatever those came from, I don't know, dude. Like, that's kind of
that is actually an interesting question.
It's kind of just like different.
Yeah.
But we also know that Svorden probably had their own religion as well.
Yes, which is where we get the Sfrakus.
Yeah, so we just don't hear about it as much. So seems like multiple religions everywhere.
Understandably.
Yeah.
Like,
we just mainly deal with Korath and Direth because those are, I guess, the two
most prominent to our story at the very least. Yeah.
Yeah. So, moving on, Duke Royal, he's very wealthy. The only reason Duke Royal probably isn't king is because Iadon also claims like the taxes as his wealth.
Right.
Which lets you know, like, Royal is loaded.
Yes. Yeah, it says he's the most powerful man in the room and probably the wisest as well, is what Kiin's saying to Sarene.
Which is shown because, like, when the Riot happened, basically anything to do with Elantris got torn down, burnt, killed, but Royal was the only Elantris appointed official that still remains in power.
Really?
Yeah, it says here he was the governor of Iald before the Riot and was the only Elantris appointed official to remain in power after the uprising, which just shows you how good of a governor he was, or how influential he was, that even though he was Elantris appointed, people didn't dare touch him.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
Yep. And then she asked who's sitting next to him. And Kiin says, the portly man? And Serene's like, portly? And Kiin's like, yeah, that's how us fat guys refer to each other.
Yeah. He says, you're not fat, you're robust.
But Kiin responds, he says, that's Count Ahane. And in Ahane's name, we see Aeon Ahe,
which
means
is
breath
or air. Yeah, which, I mean, doesn't really fit. Well, it kind of fits. I'm sure Ahane is, like, wheezing quite a bit because he's overweight. That was a little mean.
A little bit. Also a little bit of a stretch, but it's it's
no.
fine.
It works.
It's
It
fine.
works.
I was gonna say because he like talks a lot, so he's breathy and
Breathy.
airheaded, huh? Also mean. Anyway,
I don't think he's airheaded though.
no.
Just
Well,
a little dumb.
yeah. Okay. we see later. He's a little airheaded.
Kiin goes on to say, like, they're either really good friends or very old enemies. I can't really remember which it is.
And he keeps saying that, like, he's like, I don't even know if they know whether or not they're friends or enemies. Like they've been in this, for lack of a better word, dance for so long that like they don't even know whether they're friends or enemies, but they wouldn't know what to do without each other.
Yeah, you can't picture it, but I just pictured Ahane and Royale like waltzing. Made me giggle.
I'm glad that made you giggle. And then we come to the last man,
Edon
or
Edane.
Aeon Ide, which is superior and lofty,
Yeah.
which is hilarious because what is it, Baron? Yeah, Baron Edon. I hate these. I hate the Aeons, man. Like, because I know how the Aeon is supposed to be pronounced.
Yeah.
But then I also have in my head like how the narrator pronounces all these names
On the audiobook.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's hard. It's our
Baron Edon.
It's our torment.
Yeah. Baron Edon is Baron of the Ti plantation or Ti plantation, which means green.
It means green.
Ti.
It's so I assume here it's not named after him because he's not important enough. He's probably connected to a duke or a or a count. It's probably connected to a duke or a count with Tie in their name? Question mark?
I don't know, because he's obviously like in control of those lands. Because later in this chapter, Sarene is gonna, put forth some suggestions, and they're obviously suggestions he has the power to like enact. They're obviously his lands, so I don't know why his name doesn't match up. Kiin though says, I've never liked him, but he's probably one of our strongest supporters.
Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting.
Well, he's just the strongest supporter because he needs it to work
he's got
out
the most to lose.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't have much to lose, except for his time.
You're right. He doesn't have the most to lose, but he's most likely to lose what he's got.
Yes. And then I have to kick myself over and over again because Brandon foreshadows the chasm being a problem
so much
again.
Yeah.
And if you've been following along in like our first episode, I said like, oh, Brandon never mentions the chasm before it's like a problem.
Yeah. I think this is like Brandon mentions it offhandedly once, like right before it becomes the solution.
Yeah.
And this is like the fourth time.
I think the fourth time.
It's actually twice in this chapter.
Yeah.
So
so this might be the third, and then the fourth is later in this chapter. But it's not so. Edon's holdings is the land where the chasm is. So his crops and stuff don't do as well because the chasm kind of like ruins the land.
Yeah.
Which could the chasm be something more?
I don't think so.
No?
I don't think so. I just think that, like, obviously you get a big crack because land needs to retain water in order to be fertile.
Okay.
And if you've got a big crack in the ground, your water is basically just going to come into this crack. And so I think that's why the land near the chasm just isn't very fertile, is because of that.
But what caused the chasm?
An earthquake.
What caused the earthquake?
Shifting of tectonic plates. I don't know what caused his earthquakes. I don't know. What do you want from me?
But could it be autonomy? Now, hold on here. Put your tinfoil hat on and follow me here, okay?
Okay, I'm listening.
One,
with half an ear.
Listen with both, because your brain's about to get blown.
All right, let's hear it.
One, we know that the next book on sale. Well, the next Elantris book, or I guess I should say, it is rumored that the next Elantris book,
starting off real strong,
is going to be about the rising of Yadith. Okay?
Okay.
Like, that's going to be a main thing in the next book. We have the theory that I fully subscribe to, and I think you do too, that Yadith is an avatar of autonomy.
Yes, I'm sold on that one.
Okay. And we know that autonomy doesn't always pay attention to her avatars all the time. She knows they're there, but sometimes that's all. She just knows they're there and she doesn't really focus on them.
Yes. For those who aren't really aware what autonomy has been doing in the Cosmere, autonomy has basically just gone to a bunch of different planets and like put a piece of herself on all these planets just kind of as something that can like grow, but it's not something she's like actively working on or with. She's got, a bunch of them around.
Yeah.
If you've ever seen Guardians of the Galaxy 2, we've got Star-Lord's dad, which is a planet, Ego, and he basically goes and puts a piece of himself on all these other planets, and his whole thing is like domination of the entire, universe.
Pretty good comparison.
Yes.
To what autonomy's doing.
That's basically what autonomy's doing. She's going and putting a piece of herself on all of these worlds that can then grow and flourish, and she can take over those worlds.
Now, back to the theory. Yadith in Shudireth is known to be in the earth. Okay. He's not up in heaven. He's in the earth. So could the chasm have been autonomy injecting her presence into the earth that will then become whatever comes out in the second book?
Do you think it's going to come out of the chasm?
Well, he's going to come out of the earth.
Okay. Keep going.
No, that's pretty much it. I'm just saying, maybe the chasm wasn't just, earthquake, land breaking. And it was more like intervention from a higher power.
Interesting theory. No.
Okay. I think it works kind of well because it also means that autonomy would be crippling her opposition pretty much.
Yeah.
Arelon.
Yeah. However, if that were the case, she would have done something after the chasm appeared while the Elantrians were disabled for 10 years.
Okay, well, she's a shard. She's looking over multiple worlds, as we know.
Right.
It might not be in her forefront.
Okay, but if it wasn't in her forefront, then I don't think she would. I love the theory, and I'm more than happy to be proven wrong here. But if she had enough presence of mind and was gonna be okay, I'm gonna ruin Elantris by creating this chasm and destroying their whole power system, and then does nothing for 10 years.
What's 10 years to infinity?
Okay, but she let Elantris come back.
Okay, but she couldn't have known that Raoden would have figured it out, I'm just saying.
No, for sure.
So basically, forget the details. I'm just saying maybe the chasm wasn't just tectonic plates. That's all I'm saying. Okay. I don't have the details.
Which is fine.
In 15 years, when Brandon finally writes this book, I don't know when he's planning on writing it, but
I think he said that Elantris 2 has to be out before Mistborn Era 3.
No, he's writing Mistborn Era 3 right now.
I know.
I don't think. He might have said Mistborn Era 4.
Maybe.
But
I'll have to go find it.
Anyways, keep a lookout and prove me right, Brandon, please.
Oh.
Let's move on. So they're talking about Eden and how he'll lose his title because he's losing money, and Eidon's whole thing is you need money to rule. So That's what they're talking about.
Yep. And it says that Edon is most anxious. He's probably the most anxious for us to succeed. And Sarene then asks, like, what would succeeding mean? Like, what would that look like for these men? What are they trying to accomplish?
And Kiin shrugs. They'll do about anything to get rid of this silly system that requires them to prove their wealth. Noblemen will be noblemen, Eni. They're worried about maintaining their place in society.
Yeah.
So basically saying, like, the system's unstable. They don't want to lose their, their titles and stuff. So they're looking for a better solution, sort of thing.
Yep. So then they're getting ready to go in, and Kiin basically asks Sarene, like, "Are you sure you still want to do this?" And Serene's like, "Yeah, I'm coming in." And he's like, "Well, this isn't TO'd. The men here are a lot more traditional. They don't feel it's proper for a woman to be involved in politics." And Sarene kind of like throws back at him, like, "This coming from the man who's cooking dinner right now,
Yeah. Kiin smiles, goes, "Good point." And then it mentions his raspy voice. And she says, like, "Oh, I'm going to figure out what happened to his throat." And I love the word throat here because he's crushed throat.
Yeah.
So I like that. Anyways.
So anyway, they end up going in. He introduces Sarene to everyone in the room. He's like, "This is my, niece, our new princess, and, daughter to King of NTO." And they're like, "Oh, like, Kiin, you have connections to, like, the throne of Teod?"
Yeah, Ahane says this.
Yeah.
And then...
no, Royal said it.
Oh, you're right. Royal said it.
Ahane's like, "Oh, come on, Royal. Like, I already knew that. My spies told me that ages ago."
Yeah, Royal's like, "I was being polite, dude. Like, screw you."
like Ahane, I knew that too. I was just, you just don't say things like that,
You don't
read the room.
Yeah. Anyways, so Sarene basically, gets introduced. Then they're all kind of like,
"What are you doing here?"
Yeah, like, why should we let her in? She kind of makes a little speech sort of thing. She goes, "One would think after such a drastic reduction in your numbers, my lord, you would appreciate additional support, no matter how unfamiliar or how feminine it may be." Everyone goes silent.
Yeah.
Everyone's kind of like, okay.
Which they're also, this is the first, because some of these men have seen Sarene in court.
Yes.
And Sarene in court is an idiot.
So stupid.
She's an airhead because she's playing to, what King Iadon expects.
Yeah.
And so some of these men have seen Sarene be airheaded in court, and this is the first intelligent thing that she's said in their presence.
Yep.
And so they're just like,
huh? Anyways, Duke Royale finally laughs and is like, "No person could possibly be as stupid as you made yourself out to be. Not even the queen herself is that empty-headed."
And Sarene comes to a half-hearted defense of the queen here. She's like, "The queen's not stupid. She's just energetic."
Yeah, it's great.
Okay, Sarene.
And snorted, "If that's what you want to call it." Anyways, she goes on to, like, kind of fight for her spot here.
Yeah,
She's
they call her inexperienced and, like, you don't know the political, like, situation here.
Yeah. And she's like, "Well, I'm not inexperienced. Like, unlike how you guys treat your women in TO, like, I've worked as a diplomat for many years.
Yeah.
Like, I know what I'm talking about." Royale's like, "That may be, but you don't know what it's like here.
Right.
Like, it's completely different than how it is in Teod or in Fjordell. Like, obviously, our situation's unique." And they're kind of going back and forth. And then Edon cues in, and he's just like, "Don't be silly, girl," sort of thing. And I wrote here, because when I was reading it, it was kind of like a slap in the face, because you have, like, these two very intelligent people kind of, like, having some wordplay and going back and forth
with Sarene and Royal.
Yes. And then Edon just comes in and is an idiot. And so I wrote chess and checkers, because, like, Sarene and Royal are playing chess, and then Edon just brings in his checker pieces and, like, starts hopping pieces, like. Anyways, I thought that's, like, what it felt like to me. Like, these two are, like, intellectually here, and then Edon's just like, don't be silly, girl. And he's like, you're an idiot. Shut up. Like, you're not welcome on this game board here.
And one of the points that Sarene did make is that she's like, I have often found that a fresh, unbiased opinion is an invaluable tool in any discussion. So they're saying, like, you don't know, like, what our politics are. And she's like, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
And then after Edon, calls her a silly girl, Shuden kind of jumps in. And again, Shuden, underrated character.
Dude,
like,
he's such a gentleman, and like, he's hot, and he knows martial arts. Like, goated character.
He comes and jumps into Serene's defense here, and he's like, answer me a question. Is girl the proper title for one who, had things turn out a bit differently, might have been our queen? He's like, don't forget, this is Raoden's wife.
Don't forget, if Raoden didn't die, she would be more powerful than any of us here.
Yes.
Sort of thing. Which is just great by Shuden. I love Shuden.
Love Shuden. And it stops the conversation. It says forks stopped on their way to mouths. And once again, Sarene found herself the focus of the room's attention. And like, she's not like super comfortable in that type of situation, but
yeah.
Anyway.
So it goes on. There's a lot more dialogue here where
so much dialogue.
They're going back and forth, basically being like, okay, well, this is what I can bring. Well, we don't want you to join, but I want to join. Like, back and forth, just her trying to convince them to accept her, and them kind of bringing up problems, until eventually, like, they do.
But they don't. But they do. They finally, like, accept that she's gonna be there.
Yeah.
But they're not, at that point, even once they accept that she's gonna be there, they're still kind of just thinking that she's gonna be a listener.
Listening, yeah.
And just, like, be there for the conversation, but not be an active participant and all this stuff. And we get into, again, a lot of dialogue. We go back and forth. And at some point, I don't know how much you have in this next page of dialogue here, but my next point is like her trial.
Oh, we'll get to that. I do have, it's just this small little thing that I thought was very interesting.
Okay.
After they've kind of like, okay, she stays, like she can be at this meeting.
Mm-hmm.
She notices that like not everyone has begun to eat. She notices Shuden hasn't touched his food yet, and Royale as well, and also Kiin.
Right.
But Shuden it points out here, is just seems to be a very religious man. So he prays before he eats. And then Royale doesn't eat because Kiin hasn't eaten.
Yeah.
And Royale respects Kiin enough that like, like even though Royale outranks Kiin, it's Kiin's home. He should be the first one to eat. So I just thought that was interesting. It kind of points out, their character and who they are.
And who's like paying attention and whatnot. Because it also points out that each of these men is used to being the most important man in any room that they're in.
Yeah.
And so for a lot of them, it doesn't even cross their minds,
Yep. And then other than that, I wanted to point out the mention of Jaehadoran, thank you, chefs. Which this is, I think, the only mention of Jaehadoran, which is a country to the east of Jindo.
I think it might mention it one more time as one of K-Ice's languages that she knows, but I can't remember.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't remember it because that was last.
Yeah, you're right.
But the only mention there, and it's mentioned with chefs, so they apparently must have good culinary schools or something there. I'm just trying to help build out the.
No, it's beautiful.
But
I love it.
I think that's the only mention we get of Jaehadoran.
Gotcha.
There. And now we can move on to.
Yeah, it's so
Ghost Trial.
Yeah, it comes in and Kiin.
I lied. So sorry. I have a couple more things.
Okay, fine.
It just mentions that Kiin's wife is a ranked noblewoman. So while Kiin doesn't take a title, apparently his wife has.
Okay.
Which makes me feel like his son, Lukel, might also have a title. Because we had thought that, like, oh, maybe he doesn't take a title because Kiin doesn't, and so out of principle, he doesn't. But it seems like Kiin's wife has a title.
Okay.
Because she's obviously part of court, or at least the women's part of court. And yeah, so I just wanted to point that out real quick.
Interesting. Where does it say that? Right there.
Right here. A simple man who loves to cook, whose brother is king of Teod, whose niece is now the daughter of 2 kings, and whose wife is a ranked noblewoman in our own court. And Kiin's like, I can't help that I'm related to important people.
Yeah. Merciful Domai gives each of us different trials.
Pretty great.
And then Eondel comes in and says, speaking of trials, has your ladyship decided what to do for her trial yet?
Yep.
And this is the first that Serene's heard of whatever this is. She's like, trial? What do you mean trial? What are we talking about? And Royal explains, like, he's talking about your widow's trial. And Kiin kind of rebuffs the idea. He's like, don't tell me you expect her to perform a widow's trial. He's like, she never even met the man. It's ridiculous to even expect her to go through mourning, let alone a widow's trial. Like, what are we talking about here? But she kind of gets demanding about it. Like, what is a widow's trial? What are you guys talking about?
She hates being out of the known. Like, she hates having unfulfilled duties held over her head.
Yes.
Sort of thing. So she's like, what is it? And none of them are really telling her.
No, she doesn't really find out in this chapter.
Yeah.
It says here, like, when an heirly noble woman is widowed, my lady, she is expected to perform a trial.
And she's kind of like, how am I supposed to, like, know of these things? And they're kind of like, well, we have a fine court here. Like, there was a couple balls that happened. There's one tonight. It's actually happening right now. And they get into, like, she's like, well, you guys have to take me to these balls. Pretty much, because, like, I need to be a part of them. I need to be a part of the court. I need to know what's going on. So they all agree that, like they'll each take her to a ball. I think there was a funny line here. Shuden goes like, many of these men are married, Your Highness.
Yeah, because she's suggesting all of them, because they had said, oh, we could find some people to invite you, to these balls. And she's like, well, that might look a little strange because I'm married.
Well, I'm in mourning. I'm only a week into mourning.
Yeah.
And so, like, going with a young eligible bachelor would look bad.
Yeah. So she suggests that these men here take her.
Yeah. She's like, you're all old men. Yeah. Like, people don't even think about it. And then Shuden, like, many of these men are married, Your Highness. And she smiles and goes, what a coincidence. So am I. Love that. Love that from her.
Yeah, and Royal comes in. He says, don't worry about our honor, Shuden. Like, I'll make the princess's intentions known. And as long as she doesn't go with any one of us too often, no one will infer much from it.
Yeah.
So
there's not much to talk about with the upcoming dialogue. But they switch the conversation and they're talking about the upcoming lunar eclipse, which I just marked and said foreshadowing, because we know that becomes a big night where Sarene catches King Iadon doing Jesker mystery, what would it be called? Sacrifices, rituals. Yeah. So just a little bit of foreshadowing there. They're just talking about the upcoming lunar eclipse.
Yep. And then they're squabbling a little bit, just back and forth. And Kiin comes in, and I just kind of marked this here. He said, gentlemen, we are not here to squabble. Remember that we all have much to gain from reform. Kind of bringing the conversation back to, like, what they're supposed to be here for.
So Eden, like, blurts out, like, I thought we weren't going to meet anymore, sort of thing. And then they're kind of like, well, we didn't say we would stop meeting, just that we would stop for a while. And it goes back to talk about, like, Eden's predicament, that he's going to lose his title. And this is when, like, they're squabbling about that. Yeah. This is when Kiin comes in. He's like, we're not here to squabble.
Yeah. We all have much to gain from reform, including stability for our country and freedom for our people. And I love that line from Kiin, where it's like, Kiin's not concerned about his title.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm sure they're all noblemen. They all are concerned about their titles, but his concern here is for the people, for the country and the freedom of the people. Like, this is what we're working towards. And it just kind of goes to show, like, this is a group of good men who is like striving for a bettering of the situation.
Yes. So they go on to kind of be like, well, what should we do? Because Raoden had a plan. Raoden's gone. That plan won't work. We don't have the protection that he offered. Like,
we don't have the power to challenge the king.
What should we do? So Royale's going on. He's saying, like, we don't have the means to accomplish our goal yet. Like, we have to wait.
Yeah.
Now, Royale is only saying this because Royale has another plan.
Yes.
Royale has actually brought in assassins.
Already? Because I can't remember the full timeline.
I think, like, later in this book, he says, like, that's why I wanted us to wait, because I had already contacted assassins to come.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, like, that's the line that's said. So we know that's at least, if he hasn't already, like, contacted assassins here, that's at least
in his
plan.
It's in his head.
Yeah, that he's wanting them to wait because he's planning on dealing with Iadon himself.
Which is crazy because Royal and Iadon, good friends.
They were good friends, yeah.
Yeah, it says Royal and Iadon have been friends since before the Riot.
Yeah.
So they were, you know, friends as merchants before the Riot, and it's been 10 years and they're still friends. But Sarene, like, when it says that they've been friends since before the Riot, Sarene is like, why does he come? And it says Royal is a good man, friendship or not. He knows that Iadon's rule has been horrible for this nation. That, and I suspect he also comes because of boredom. But Royal is just a good enough man to know that even though this is my friend, the country is more important.
Yep. So they're going back and forth, like, well, what should we do? We're all saying we wait. Other people are saying no, like, we gotta act. Even Iondel?
Eondel.
Thank you. Eondel's like, well, I have my military.
Yeah.
So that gets brought up, but then they go, like, there must be a way to persuade Iadon without resorting to anarchy. And this is where Sarene chimes in. She's like, there is. And they all turn to her kind of annoyed. They're like, you were supposed to be listening, not speaking.
Yes.
Sort of thing. So they turn to her annoyed, and Royale kind of, like, tries to brush her off. He's like, I agree. And then he turns back to the, to the group and starts talking again.
And he's like, and that way is to wait. He's like, I agree. There is a better way. And that way is to wait again, because Royal has a plan.
Yes.
And it says in this chapter that Royal has convinced himself that these men that are sitting in this meeting, Shuden, I think Lukel's sitting at the table with them.
Yes.
Shuden, Lukel, Edon, Ahane.
Yeah.
There's nothing that they can contribute. He said, I came to this meeting to pacify them and to get everybody to just, like, sit back and wait so that Kiin and I can figure out what to do.
Yeah. But Sarene then goes on to propose a plan that they use Iadon's own system against itself. And then goes and proposes to each of them that
a new form of government. Sorry, little
man, who the F is this? Bright young man. I'm sure those two fandoms cross over a little bit.
Yeah, I'm sure people got that.
You're hilarious. So she goes on to basically telling these guys, like, hey, a person who is working towards something and who can hold his own land and everything is going to work harder than a slave that you whip.
Yes.
Sort of thing. So she goes on to say, like, hey, split up your lands, go to your workers and say 10% of whatever this portion, like whatever these fields produce, is yours to keep.
Yes.
Sort of thing. And she's basically come up with this plan to make them all richer, but as well as kind of undermine Iadon's like the rich should rule and everyone else shouldn't own anything.
Yeah, and it's really like she asked them like, well, you all agree the Iadon system is bad. What is the worst part about it?
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh, well, it creates more or less slaves out of the people. And let's see, it says, threatens the noblemen, taking away the titles of those who do not produce. So in turn, the lords grow desperate and they beat extra effort out of the people. It's an unconscionable agreement, one based on greed and fear rather than loyalty. And those are like the reasons that they're giving. And Sarene's like, wrong. You know, that's not the worst thing about King Iadon's system. She says, have any of you looked at Erelon's production charts over the last 10 years? And they're like, production charts?
Ahane's like, such thing exists?
What are you talking about? And she's like, we have them in Teod. She says the worst part about King Iadon's system is that it does all these things. It's based on greed. It's based on fear. It's not what it does to the people, nor the fact that it destroys the morality of the country. The most pitiful is the fact that it does both of these things without making the noblemen any richer.
Yeah.
She's like, this system, garbage.
Sucks. Terrible.
Like, you're working these people like slaves, you're doing all these things, and your production is just getting worse.
Your stocks are plummeting.
Yeah.
And it's so contradictory to how the system is set up.
Yeah.
The whole system is about your wealth, but guess what? It's all going down. Mm-hmm. So she's like, it's terrible that, yeah, it pushes down the people and all that. But the worst part about it is that it's doing the opposite of what it's supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And it's not making you guys richer.
Yeah. So then she goes on to say, we have no slaves in Teod, and we get along just fine. And in fact, not even Fjorden uses a serf-based system anymore. They found something better.
Yeah.
They discovered that a man will work much more productively when he works for himself.
Yes.
So again, proposing that these men allow their, workers to keep 10% of whatever they produce and have the opportunity to buy their land, to buy their home, to do all this stuff.
Yep.
And there's some pushback for sure on this idea.
They're all kind of like, well, it's risky. And Sarene's like, more risky than walking your soldiers into the palace and holding the king hostage,
Yeah, because when that was suggested, Shuden kind of shot back at them and was like, your new government would be born out of the blood of the old.
Yeah.
As Iadon's rule was birthed from the death of Elantris.
Yeah.
And that's just like, he's like, yeah, you can, overthrow the king by military force and start a new government, but that's a dangerous precedent to keep setting.
Yes.
Where this just happened 10 years ago. You do it now, it's going to happen to you in 10 years.
So Eondel is the first to agree.
Yeah.
He goes, I will do it. And whether that's because he has the least to lose,
the least chance of losing, I guess.
Yes. He this will be easier for him. And Eden actually points it out. He's like, well, you have men that can work your fields.
Yeah, he's like, if your servants get lazy, your soldiers will come work the field,
Which Eondel then pushes back. He's like, well, they're actually working for the kingdom. They're policing the highways and everything. It's very important.
Which then Edon retorts to and says, well, and you get paid for that. So we see here that Edon's not really interested in actually making a good argument. He's just whining.
Yeah, and he goes on to say, well, I have no income other than my farms. Mm-hmm. And I also got this big crack going straight through the middle of them.
Yeah.
Mentioning the chasm. Once again, L to me.
L to Jacob.
Anyways, so, it takes them a little more persuading.
Yeah, Edon says, I don't have any room for laziness. If my potatoes don't get planted, weeded, and harvested, then I will lose my title. And Ahane comes in and said with a helpful smile, you'll probably lose it anyway. So I was like,
Ahane's just there to make fun of people, it seems. So they go over it. A couple of them agree, and then it turns to Lord Royale because he's like, she needs him to agree because he's who the other people look up to. And he's kind of like, I'll think about it. And she's like, no. Will you do it? Like she really backs him into a corner and has been like, no, Lord Royale, like you will make a decision.
Which I can't get behind on Serene's part here. And yeah, it kind of works eventually for her, but there was a more tactful way to go about that.
It was a calculated risk, which is what she claims it is later. But I'm gonna say I'm glad she does it.
Yeah.
If not just to move the story forward, like we know Royale wants us all to wait because he has other plans. And so like Royale does say like, hey, I would have eventually agreed with you, but like part of me is like, how long would he have dragged it out?
Yeah.
And we know they are on a ticking time bomb of 2 months, and even a couple days is kind of hard to wait.
Yeah.
In that short of a time.
And that's Sarene knows to an extent that Shudireth is here to overthrow the government and take over.
There's a Gjorn here. Stuff's about to go down. We got to get a move on. So she says, no, you will. And then Shudan saves Royale and kind of like lets him save face.
Mm-hmm.
So they eventually all agree. And then Ahane's like, well, what should I do? Because Ahane and Royale, Ahane always wants to do like the opposite of what Royale does. So Serene's really smart here. She goes, well, Royale only agreed grudgingly. And so he's like, then I agree full-heartedly. So she gets them all on board, essentially. Yep. We skip to a little later after people have gone home.
Yeah, same evening, post-meeting.
Yes.
And Royale is talking to Kiin. And Serene's
in the kitchen.
Yeah, and Serene's
she was going to the bathroom.
Okay.
And overhears Royale goes, she's good at this, Kiin. Like, perhaps better than me. Like, you should have warned me. Kiin's like, what? And let you escape? No way. It's good for you to be taken down a peg every once in a while. So they're talking, and Sarene kind of like eases up to the door and is like listening in. Is where we're at right now.
Yeah, it says they're sharing a bottle of Fjordell wine, which I thought was interesting that, like, you've got the opposition of Erlon and Fjordell, but there's obviously, like, some trade going on. Yeah. They've got Fjordell wine, you know?
Well, I mean, I would, you know...
I guess it's not...
in countries...
It's not the same as, like, Teod and Fjordell.
Right. But even then, like, Teod still has a Fjorden ambassador. Like, even if you hate a country or the countries are opposed, if they're not in all-out war, I mean, that country has stuff that you probably need, and you have stuff that they probably need. There's always going to be trade and stuff. So, I don't think it's weird that we see them have Fjorden wine here. Anyways, so I'm trying to look for the direct words. Royale goes, she nearly lost it at the end there. I don't like being backed into a corner, which is what she really was doing. Yeah. And she walks right in and she was like, it was a calculated risk, really. Yeah. And it's almost as if Royale knew she was listening, because he doesn't even skip a beat. he's just like,
you all but threatened me, Sarene. That is no way to make an ally, especially of a crotchety old man as myself.
And he do be a crotchety old man. And he goes on to say, like, I've found that thoughtful, well-considered commitment is much more productive than spurious professions.
Which, for me, just contrasts against what, like, Hrathen's trying to do. Because Hrathen is just looking, like, for professions of, like, faith.
That's funny.
That's really, like, nothing soup here, but, like...
No, I like this nothing soup because I had the other side of that nothing soup.
Oh.
I was saying this is similar to Hrathen because when he's, like, talking to the nobles, he doesn't like that a noble quickly joined in. He liked that one of them was, like, more thinking about it and in thought. so he liked that noble better than the one that like jumped in right away.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. But different.
Yeah, different like situation, because he's not like Fjordell in general. In all of the countries that they've taken over, have not been looking for like solid conversion. They've been looking for professions of faith from the ruling class.
So mine was more like micro, yours was more macro.
Yeah.
Like you're looking big picture. I was thinking this specific instance. So funny that we were on the same nothing soup, but different sides of it.
Yeah. But yeah, so they keep going, and they're chatting a little bit, and then Royal says, "One thing is certain, Sarene, you give us hope again," which I loved right there. Like, Raoden was our unity before, now you will take his place. Kiin and I couldn't do it. Kiin's refused nobility for too long, and no matter what the people say, they still want a leader with a title. And me, they all know that I helped Iadon start this monstrosity. Yeah, and I love like Royal's like, he knows that he helped start this, but he accepts it's been horrendous.
Yep. And I love the kind of connection they make between Sarene and Raoden here. Like kind of saying they're like samesies.
Yeah.
Because they kind of are in a lot of ways.
Kind of cute.
It's kind of cute. It's almost like they were like meant for each other or something. Sorry, Sarene lovers. If you know, you know. Anyways, they start talking about Raoden, saying that she would have made him a fine wife, blah, blah, blah. And then Kiin's like, Domai moves in ways that are sometimes strange to our mortal minds, basically saying like,
we don't always know what happened.
Yeah. It
why
was Domai's will
that
he died. And Sarene goes like, well, I'm not convinced that it was Domai's will. Like, have you guys not been kind of suspicious of his death? Like, come on.
Come on.
Because she's very suspicious of his death.
Yeah, and so she throws in her conspiracy theory of here of like, the king might have had something to do with this. Can you guys honestly say that that's an impossibility? And they're like, well, we can't, I guess, entirely rule it out. They said it wouldn't have been, terribly hard to find a lookalike for the casket, which I thought was an interesting line because it was a closed casket. So
yeah. So there could have been no body in that casket.
Pretty sure there was no body in that casket.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Royale is like, yeah, but his own son. And Kiin's kind of like, well, it wouldn't be the first time such a thing has happened. And I wonder if this is Kiin's little like chip on his shoulder because he was wronged and like his throne was stolen. And I mean, it's not samesies, like no one died, but Kiin's like, look, when it comes to becoming king and stuff, my own brother like betrayed me, sort of thing. Like, so Kiin's kind of like, well, what, like, it's not out of the realm of possibility for sure. And Kiin, has experienced this kind of firsthand. So
yeah, and they theorize that he might still be alive.
Well, Royale's kind of like, is it possible that he isn't dead? And Sarene like shoots it down right away. And she's like, usually in this sort of thing, like they don't want to leave anything because there's too many stories of like someone showing up 20 years later from the wilderness and like claiming the throne or like putting their claim on the throne. And so she's like, nah. Anyways, so
Lion King is the reference that's coming to my head now.
Yeah, sure. Serene's like, yeah, but like Lion King,
Yeah, like you don't want to send the kid just out into the wilderness because he's gonna come back in 20 years and take over the throne. You kill him.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Anyways, Iadon starts talking about, or Royale starts talking about Iadon here. And he was like he was a better man once, blah, 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 blah.
Never what I would call a good man.
Sure.
But not a bad one either.
He goes on to say something's happened to him over the past few years. Something has just changed him. Which I wrote.
You're going to be talking about the Jesperai mysteries, I assume.
I assume like he started, maybe met someone who convinced him to join because later in the book we find out that King Iadon has been making sacrifices because he's part of the Jeskai Mysteries.
Yeah.
Which is kind of an offshoot of the Jesker religion, and it's a lot more like weirdos, maybe like cultish.
Yes.
Sort of thing.
And I wonder if there is anything to be said, like if there is any sort of investiture tied to the Jeskai mysteries. I know that like religions don't necessarily have to mean stuff like that, but I feel like on Cell,
in the Cosmere in general,
a little more.
I feel like in the Cosmere in general, like religions typically center around the highly invested stuff.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. So
I'm wondering like if this change is just because he's participating in those activities, or if there is like actually a change taking place in Iadon through some sort of investiture because of his involvement.
Yeah. If we didn't have the theory that autonomy is behind Shudirith, I would almost say like a shard is pulling the strings behind the Jeskai Mysteries.
Yeah.
Because it almost seems, I don't know. It's just...
People also just be crazy weird sometimes.
People be crazy weird. I think that.
I do think. I think it's just a cult. And I think it's just...
I think that. I think they took a part of the Jesker religion that made them feel good and started a cult around it.
Lovely.
Anyways.
They then get to talking about Elantris.
Elantris and the Gjorn.
Yes, because Sarene sent her Sion into Elantris. And they're like, why into Elantris? And she's like, well, the Gjorn's interested in Elantris. And they're like, okay, I think you're a little too caught up on this Fjordell priest. And she's like, no. Not a priest. A Gjorn. Like, and she's like, and I'm pretty sure, like, this is the same Gjorn who was involved in the disaster of the Duloden Republic.
Royal's kind of like, there's no evidence of that. And she's like, well, there is in Teod.
But nobody would believe us.
No one would believe us. But so like, I don't...
What evidence?
I don't know.
Yeah. Like, what evidence do they have? Because Duladel and Erelon, neighboring.
Yes.
Teod, across the ocean. So what evidence does Sarene have that the Duloden Republic was a result of Fjordell interference that Erelon wouldn't?
And that no one would believe.
Yeah. Like, what is that about?
It's... They put out this line here, and it's like, there's so much to get into on just this line, but we don't get anything to like tell us.
And like on some point I'd be like, okay, that's just Serene's, like paranoia about, Shudirith in general.
Yeah.
But she's right. I'm wondering like,
and it's not just like her own personal bias against it. It's she's saying like, we have evidence in Teod. You guys just wouldn't believe us.
Yeah.
If we told you it. So it's like, that implicates...
That's suspicious.
That's weird. But she's like, trust me when I tell you that this single Gjorn could be more dangerous than Iadon.
Yeah.
And I wrote like, I don't think it's that hard to be more dangerous than Iadon. Like, yes, he's the king, but he's not particularly powerful.
No, and I think she was saying more dangerous just to the people of Erelon, and I think she was referencing more his system of rule and how catastrophic it has been and will be. I don't think she's like saying Iadon is like a dangerous person.
Okay. Anyways, Lukel comes back. He was sent to go get the twins and their mother. They're not actually twins.
Yeah,
they know this.
We're gonna be calling them twins.
The twins and the mother. Because Kiin had sent them to their aunt's house for the night so they can have like the meeting. Anyways, Lukel's coming back, but she's not back. Like, Kiin's wife doesn't come back with him, and he says they weren't finished. And you know how mother is. Everything must be done in its proper order. No rushing allowed. Which supports my theory that she was married to a Fjordell man previously. And the whole Aeon...
Swordish man.
Swordish or... Yes.
Okay.
But Svorden is part of the Fjordell Empire.
Okay.
So I am using them interchangeably. Anyways. because she's so like, hey, things have to happen in order, which we see Hrathen is the exact same way. Like, he's very orderly. Fjordell is very militaristic order. Things have to happen the way they should happen. That's all I'm saying.
All right. I like it.
It supports my theory.
Okay. I still think you're like horribly wrong, but I like the supporting.
Horribly wrong?
Yes.
Why?
I
You have no reason. I have supporting evidence.
Sure. Okay, bud. Sure.
See what I have to put up with, guys?
You love me and you know it.
It's a deep dive, Jax. My theories are always correct.
Okay. All right. Sounds great. Moving on. Royal, Kiin leaves, Lukel leaves, and Royal is like talking to Sarene, and he's like, interesting family. And Serene's like, yes, a little odd even by Tio standards. And Duke Royal says Kiin had a long life on his own. It accustomed him to doing things by himself.
Mm-hmm.
Which I just thought was interesting.
Living on a pirate ship.
Yeah. Not that Royal knows that. I know you think Royal knows that.
I swear Royal knows that.
I just don't.
Here's the thing. There's a little bit of supporting evidence that Royal does know that. Because, one, he knows Kiin lived on his own for a while. Two, out of the group, he wanted to come up with a plan with Kiin on what to do. And we know Royal's head is in the realm of assassination. And if Royal knew that Kiin was Crushed Throat, then he wouldn't have a problem talking to Kiin about assassination.
Fair. I also just think that he knows that him and Kiin are on the same page, and they're both more powerful, like more wealthy than the other guys. Sure. That's kind of my thought.
He knows he's Crushed Throat. Anyways,
if I ever get a chance to ask Brandon Sanderson a question, I think that's the top of my list right now.
What? Who knows?
Yeah,
that Kiin?
Did the nobility of Erelon know that Kiin was Driok Crush Throat prior to us learning that as consumers of the book?
Okay,
that's it. That's all.
I would like to ask him that as well.
Okay, we can't both ask him.
You're so stupid.
Anyways. They keep chatting.
Royal gives Sarene some great advice here. And I marked it all down in pink because I really like this one. He goes, do not dash if you only have the strength to walk. And do not waste your time pushing on walls that will not give. More importantly, don't shove where a pat would be sufficient. Banger advice.
Pretty good advice.
But he goes on to say, like, you backed me into a corner today, and I am a prideful old man. Like, you almost lost it there. He's kind of just being like, reel it back a little bit, Sarene.
Yeah.
Because, like, that kind of thing won't fly. Like, if Shoden didn't bail me out, it wouldn't have gone well, sort of thing. She's like, I'm sorry.
And she does. She feels it. She says she's now blushing.
Yeah.
And she said there's just something about this powerful yet grandfatherly old duke that made her suddenly desperate to have his respect. So she really does feel the chagrin of like the situation that she put him in.
Yes.
Which is good for us to see from Sarene, that she's not just this like stuck up like she we like Sarene.
We like Sarene. Royal goes on to say, like, if this Bjorn is as dangerous as you claim, like, be careful. Like, there's powerful movement in he says there's powerful forces moving through Kai. Don't let Erelon get crushed between them.
Yep.
And that's pretty much the end of her chapter, which...
That is the end of her chapter.
Well, there's one more line. You need to just, like...
I'm sorry, guys. It's almost 10 o'clock at night. It's a little late.
Holy cow. My wife's going to be mad at me. Serene's chapter could have been a whole episode on its own. It was so long.
It was long.
And we have to get through another chapter, but
And another segment.
But thankfully, Hrathen's is very short.
6 pages.
Okay.
So we're going to fly through this
Yes.
really quickly. Hrathen, it starts off, he's preaching to the people. And he's thinking while he's preaching. And it says, these thoughts and many like them passed through Hrathen's mind as he preached to the people of Kai. And so he's actively thinking about random stuff. Because he's thinking about like languages. What if people never learn this language, this and that? And he's just thinking about random stuff while he's preaching. And it says it wasn't that he lacked focus or dedication. He had simply given the same speeches so many times that they had become rote. He spoke almost unconsciously, raising and lowering his voice to the rhythm of the sermon, performing the ancient art that was a hybrid offspring of prayer and theater.
Yes. So the main thing he's thinking about is he hates that he has to use other languages to teach Shu-Direth.
Yeah.
He thinks it's heretical, but he eventually comes to the conclusion that he will use this heretical thing to further Yadith's empire.
Yeah, it says when forced to make the decision between profanity and infinite delay, the infinite delay being everybody needing to learn Fjordell, which, from what we've heard, difficult language to learn. It says when forced to make the decision between profanity and infinite delay, Hrathen chose profanity.
Yes, and it's actually a small little foreshadowing of the end of this chapter, because he's basically saying like, hey, I will use this tool, this profane tool to further the empire, and he does exactly that at the end of this chapter.
Yeah, but it says he's only been preaching in Kai for a few days, but the chapel was already so packed that people had to line up at the back once the seats were full, which I thought was crazy. Yeah, but it also says that the people are there more because of like him as a curiosity, a spectacle, rather than, you know, converting to Shu-Direth.
I did say here, so there was this whole paragraph where it talked about, like he rose his voice here and they cheered, and he went down to a whisper and they paid more attention and whatever. I wrote that he would probably be a pretty good soother or rioter.
Oh, interesting.
Because this is similar to like, he's able to get responses out of people just using his voice and how he's communicating with them. Imagine if he had a little investiture to bump that.
Yeah.
Like, he would be a really, like, I'm comparing him to... What's his name?
Breeze.
Thank you. I'm comparing him to Breeze.
I just wanted to see if you could find it.
I'm comparing him to Breeze from Mistborn, where Breeze is like, it's not just all, you know, burning this metal and pushing people. It takes a subtle art. Yeah. And it seems like Hrathen has that subtle art down.
Yeah.
So I just had a little there.
Yeah, it said Hrathen had always been a calculating man. He was organized, careful, and attentive to detail. Similar things in Shu-Direth, its standardized, orderly method of governing, along with its logical philosophy, were what had at first attracted him to the priesthood.
Yeah.
So, you're right. She was married to a Fjordell. You're not right. But
you're the worst.
But orderly for sure. And it says he had never doubted the church. Something so perfectly organized couldn't help but be right.
Yeah.
Which means that Hrathen's like leaning towards organization is not just because of his religion. It's part of his personality and who he is.
Yeah.
So,
are you saying that Kiin's wife was married to Hrathen? Is that what you're implying right there?
No.
What's Kiin's wife's name?
I
can't remember.
I should know that. Kiin is married to, I don't know.
Oh well. Crazy. Anyways, moving on. Hrathen's kind of just still in his head. He's like, oh, I need to call a new head artist soon because like he doesn't have the time.
Deora.
Hreora?
Hreora?
Are you a Hreora supporter?
No. Anyway, continue.
He's like, I need to call a head artist because like I can't be doing these simple tasks when I have a whole country to convert. And he finishes his preaching and is like, people are starting to leave, and then Delof gets up and starts talking,
and people sit back down,
and are like, whoa. Because Delof doesn't follow any of the procedures of public speaking.
Yeah.
He's just going crazy. And like, he's got the passion, so he's just like yelling, and like, I assume he's probably saying something like, kill the Elantrians. They're the worst. You know, we don't actually hear what he says, but Hrathen's just like, he doesn't follow any of these rules, yet the people are listening.
Yeah. It says Delof had more power over this audience than Hrathen ever had.
Yeah.
Which is like, for Hrathen is just like, what are you talking about?
Yep. And so Delof's passion is just like taking over this crowd. And Hrathen's sitting there watching, kind of concerned, but also admittedly jealously.
Yeah.
And he goes on to be like, man, I know how to like tell these people the logical side of stuff, but I've never had that passion.
Yeah.
So he also says, like, unlike Hrathen, Delof hadn't been trained in the greatest schools of the East.
Fjorda? Sforden?
Yeah, maybe. I was just going to say, Delof might have been. Oh. He probably was trained. But Delof is crazy, so even if he did learn how to, like, public speak,
yeah,
I'm sure, like, he prefers the passion over any of that. Anyways,
fair.
So, Delof finally stops, and the whole crowd is, like, kind of stunned.
Yeah, it says they remained completely quiet for a long moment, and then they burst into discussion, excited speaking as they began to trail from the chapel. And then Duke Tellery comes up to Hrathen and he says, that was well done.
Yeah.
You know, having the short man speak after you was a shrewd move, Hrathen. I was worried when I saw the people growing bored.
Yeah.
The young priest refocused everyone's attention, which I don't think Hrathen noticed people growing bored. I think he was like so in his zone.
Yeah.
And like,
he wasn't paying attention.
He wasn't. He was just going by rote.
Yeah.
And so I think that's an L for Hrathen.
Yeah, there's a line here which I marked. It says, what was wrong with Hrathen that in the 30 years of serving Yadith's empire, he had never once felt as Delof seemed to at every moment? And I wrote this note basically saying, this seems like the first domino for Hrathen in pushing him towards like losing his faith and eventually like kind of going against Shudirith at the end. And I think this is the first crack we see where he's like, what is wrong with me?
Yeah.
Like, I've never felt that for this religion. And I think that's the seed that's like eventually grows into being like, maybe I don't believe this. And anyways, all of that. I think that's probably the moment where it like it starts.
Yeah.
He goes on to talk with Lord Tellery and he's like, have you considered my proposal? Now, this is, of course, the proposal of Tellery becoming the next king.
Yes.
Like overthrowing Iadon and becoming the next king.
Which is something we haven't seen like discussed on screen because the end of Hrathen's last chapter was literally just, I have a proposal for you, and then cut off.
So if you're reading this for the first time, you don't know what this proposal is.
Yes.
We do.
But we do.
Anyways.
And Tellery is like, it is tempting, very tempting. I don't think there is any man in Erelon who could refuse it, let alone myself. And I'm here like, no, there's men in Erelon who would refuse it.
Yeah, we just met like 6 of them.
Yeah.
So,
but Tellery is a nobleman, like, to the core, and is more willing to play dirty games to increase his standing, I guess.
Yes. So Tellery's like, yeah, I'll do it. And he's like, cool, I'll contact Fjorden. We'll get it set up. We can start as soon as like next week.
Yep.
Hrathen then goes to Delof and is like, well, buddy, like,
what was that,
what
bud?
was that? And Delof, I'm imagining Delof is like sprawled out on a pew, sweating, breathing heavily, and he's like, it just happened. Like, like that's how I'm imagining. It's like, I didn't plan it. It just happened.
And it says, I suddenly felt the need to speak. It was only done in your service, my Hrathen.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
okay.
And so like Hrathen's like, well, you're gonna have to talk again. Hrathen's like, Dilof's too good of a
begrudgingly.
tool. Yeah. Dilof's too good of a tool to not use. So begrudgingly, he's like, you're gonna have to do that more often because it obviously worked pretty well.
But you don't do stuff like that unless I specifically tell you to.
Yeah.
Like, you are my Odib, I am your Hrathen. Like, you listen to me, you know?
Little slap on the wrist, like, don't do that again, buddo.
But you're gonna need to do that again.
But like, now that I'm saying you can do it again, you can do it again.
Yeah.
And he's like, is that understood? And Dilof is like, perfectly, my Lord Hrathen. Perfectly, my Lord Hrathen. It cuts to Hrathen shutting the door in his own personal study. And this is where Hrathen is going to pull out a Sion to talk to Wern.
Just like throw that right out there. Why not?
Yes, yeah. Just preferencing because we're gonna move through this pretty quickly.
Yeah. So it says he meditated for half an hour to like feel prepared for it. He went to a trunk and pulled out a metal box, and it said its side had been constructed of the best steel, and on its front was a small dial and several delicate levers. The mechanism had been decided by Fjordan's finest locksmiths.
Yeah.
Another nod to Fjordan's technology.
Yeah, you got to think, like, if magic wasn't a thing on Cell, Fjordan would probably be, like, the power.
Probably, yeah.
Like, they would be leading stuff. And so he's saying, like, only Hrathen and Wern knew the proper method to open the box. He memorized this as soon as he became a Bjorn, blah, 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 blah. Basically saying, this box is really important. No one can know what's inside this box. It's really complicated. He opens it up, and out floats a Sion.
Yes.
And so it's the foreshadowing of they're using heretical tools to further Yadis Empire. Same here. They're using the Sion to further Yadis Empire.
Yeah. I'm interested to know like what Sion.
Yes, it doesn't tell us.
I know.
And I wish it did. I had the thought of like going through the Aeons and like picking a few, but I apparently just didn't.
Yes.
So I would be interested in seeing which one it was. Not that it has any real importance.
No, but it does say the Sions had been Hrathen's greatest shock upon his consecration as a Gjorn. Not that he had been surprised to find that the creatures were real, though many in the East dismissed Sions as Aeonic myths. Hrathen had by that time been taught that there were things in the world that were not understood by normal people, which is, you know, foreshadowing to his time at, I mean, it says here, the memories of his early training in Dakor Monastery still caused him to shiver in fear.
Yes, so he's thinking...
we know there's arcane things that are happening that normal people don't understand.
Yeah.
In the Dakor Monastery.
Yeah, and he, of course, is talking about Dakor itself, which is Fjordel's invested art, and is apparently quite painful, and also uses sacrifices, and is just kind of very dark.
Yeah.
I think Dakor is the darkest magic system Brandon has written. It's pretty dark to be like, hey, we're going to use this guy's life to teleport us over there.
I don't know that it's the darkest. Hemalurgy is pretty dark, bro. If you're thinking of Vin's mom taking her earring, killing Vin's sister with it, and then putting the earring in Vin's ear.
Yeah.
Or the making of an Inquisitor, bro.
Yes.
Ugh.
Those are, you're right.
They're close.
They're close. The whole, like, Vin's mom killing her sister is not so much to do with hemalurgy as it is to do with, like, ruin.
Yeah.
As a shard.
Yeah.
But, yes, the making of, like, an Inquisitor and all that is... I just slipped my mind.
Yeah.
They're
both dark.
he's good at writing dark stuff.
He is.
And I love it. So, pretty dark. He's saying, like, it's worth using this heretical tool because it's so useful.
Yeah, it says, just as it was sometimes necessary to speak in heathen languages to preach, that's Empire, there were instances where the enemy's arts proved valuable.
So, just a couple of things here. He talks about how it's useful that they, like, instantaneously communicate, which leads me to believe that, we haven't really talked about them yet, but Skays are kind of the equivalent to Seons. So, Seons are to devotion as Skays are to dominion.
Right, but they clearly don't have the same abilities.
They don't have the same abilities, and it's interesting because Skays was definitely more of an afterthought for Brandon. We only see a Skays in the short chapter.
The Hoyd, like...
The Hoyd chapter that was added with this 10-year anniversary.
Yes.
So, like, Skays was definitely, like,
Dominion needs some
splinters.
Some splinters, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't, like, I don't think when Brandon was writing Elantris, he thought about Skays.
Yeah.
Which I almost wish he did, because, like, I want to know more about them.
And I'm sure we will in the next book.
But they obviously can't communicate, because if they could, they would just use those.
Right.
Most likely.
Yeah.
And then he's talking about the Seon a little bit. He's talking about how, like, he doesn't trust it fully.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they seem obedient, but, like, what are they saying behind our backs, sort of thing. But he goes on to say that most of the nobility of Duladel, Arelon, Teod, and even Jindo had kept Seons.
Which was crazy to me.
That's a lot of Seons.
Yeah.
Which means because I think on the Coppermind, we have, like, maybe 30 to 40 Aeons.
So there's so many we don't know about.
And which, like, if you're not following our conversation, every Seon has an Aeon in the middle, and there's only one Seon for every Aeon.
Right.
So the fact that we only know 30 to 40 Aeons would allude to the fact that there would only be 30 to 40 Seons. But if all of the nobility of Duladel, Arelon, Teod, and even Jindo had them, there's got to be more than that.
Yeah.
So that's what we're alluding to there. There's plenty we don't know about Aeons and Seons and how they're made and all of that. Yep. He's like, get me Wern. So it contacts Wern's Seon, which is constantly attended by a mute servant.
Mm-hmm.
So he can't tell anybody about it.
Yeah.
Wern's face pops up. I think this is the first sort of description we get about it. It says, Wern's proud face, noble, square features regarded Hrathen. That's all we really get.
Yeah. It says, I am here, my son. Wern's voice floated through the Seon. And then we see Hrathen's, like, subservience here. He's like, oh, great Lord and Master Yaddis anointed, and Emperor in the light of his favor. What a title.
I mean, we know that Hrathen's big on titles. Every time someone doesn't use the correct title, it annoys him.
Yes.
So he
Mr. Yaddith.
Mr. Yaddith. He also gets annoyed when Tellery doesn't use Hrathen.
Yeah, just calls him by name.
Yeah, so Hrathen's a big title guy. He uses a big title here. Wern goes, speak on my Odiv. And he's like, I have a proposal involving one of the lords in the Arelon, Great One.
Which leaves us on the same cliffhanger that Hrathen's last chapter left us on, of like, what is this proposal?
This proposal. We don't know anything about it.
Yes. I mean, obviously we do, but we don't.
First read, you don't. And that's the end of Hrathen's chapter. Sorry, this episode, this second part of this episode is probably a long one.
Yeah.
So, let's jump straight into our Cosmere question of the week.
Cosmere question of the week. Pull it up.
Let me pull it up. This week's Cosmere question. This week's Cosmere question of the week is by Unstable Dawnshard.
Yet again.
He's actually our GOAT. He has great takes on our episodes, and he leaves great questions. So, the Unstable Dawnshard, we love you.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, man, woman, them.
Whoever you are.
Yeah, whatever you are, whoever you are, we love you. You have great takes, and we really appreciate the questions. So he says, as we know from the Stormlight Archive books and the Emperor's Soul, everything has a soul. To soulcast something or forge something, you need to convince that soul to change. With that being said, do you think when Elantrians create things from nothing, they also create a soul? For example, if they were to create a chair, do they create the chair in the physical realm, a bead in the cognitive realm, and a soul in the spiritual realm?
That's a question.
That's the question.
I want to hear your take first.
Okay. I think Jax has done a little more research than I have on this one. I've done a little, but I wanted you to take the front on this. So, short answer, yes.
Okay.
We know that everything in the Cosmere exists in the 3 planes, the 3 realms. That's just known. That's canon. So, of course, anything that is made in the physical realm is more of a transfer. So, the investiture from the spiritual realm is getting, well, I guess in this case, the investiture is in the cognitive realm, but is getting pushed into the physical realm and is more changing into the chair rather than them just popping a chair out of nothing. So, yes, the chair has a cognitive aspect and a spiritual aspect. He says bead here.
Yeah, which is that's how the cognitive, aspects present themselves in the Rosharan subastral.
Yes.
But it's not necessarily how cognitive aspects present themselves everywhere else.
No, because in the Scadrian subastral, everything presents itself as kind of like a misty figure or a shadowy, smoky figure. It's not beads. It's the mist. In the Celish one, hard to say. We don't know.
No. Because we don't ever get to see that, we don't ever get to see it on screen because of how dangerous
the
Celish subastral is.
And real quick, before we get into what you found, there's a distinction we need to make because on screen, we will get characters referencing the cognitive realm as Shadesmar. Shadesmar is the Rosharan subastral.
Yeah.
There's different names for different subastrals, but people that are cosmically aware have also adopted Shadesmar as a name for the cognitive realm as a whole.
Okay.
So sometimes we will see cosmically aware people reference the cognitive realm as Shadesmar,
even though they're referring to the entire cognitive realm as a whole.
Yes, rather than just the Rosharan subastral. It can be kind of confusing, but it's canon that just the Rosharan subastral is Shadesmar. People have just adopted that name and basically using as a nickname for the rest of the cognitive realm.
Yeah.
Now, that's my take.
That's your take. Okay. Disagree.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's going to be really hard to prove that I'm wrong.
So you're not wrong.
Okay.
In one sense. I disagree. And once again, we love the Unstable Dawn Shard and we love their comments and questions. I disagree with the premise of the question.
Okay.
Because the way that the question was worded or phrased was, when Elantrians create something out of nothing, does it create a cognitive and physical or spiritual aspect as well?
Yes.
And I do not think that they can create things out of nothing.
Yeah, I kind of alluded to that a little bit.
And I'm going to talk about that by talking about the second law of investiture.
Yeah.
Which is also known as Christus' second law, which is the second law is that investiture cannot be created or destroyed, only changed in form.
Yes.
Okay? And we know that everything has investiture. Everything in the Cosmere is invested to a degree. And if you can't create nor destroy investiture, only change its form, you have to change something into said chair, as opposed to just creating said chair out of nothing. We get kind of a helping point to that in chapter 21. This is
of Elantris.
Yes, of Elantris. Thank you. This is one of the Karathi priests, Omen, talking to Hrathen. And he says, I can't help recalling those days with awe. Do you realize that no one in all of Erelon went without food? The Elantrians could turn stone into corn and dirt into steak. And so it's not them creating corn or steak, it's changing stones or dirt, changing things into things, not necessarily creating things. And then in what was this event?
Are you pulling up the words of Brandon?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
This is a 17th Shard interview on October 3rd, 2010.
Okay.
And the questioner, there was a little bit of questioning back and forth that went on before this, where he talked about different, like, if Brandon was ever going to do a book where you saw a bunch of different magic systems just like move to a new world and like how they interacted and whatnot.
Okay.
And Brandon said, the thing is, some of the magic systems do cross worlds and have before. And that has not happened. Obviously, you haven't really seen it. Right now, Lyre of Partenel and Stormlight Archive share a magic system. Lyre of Partenel is an unpublished Brandon Sanderson book.
Okay.
Because with the unifying theory of magic, there's a certain number of things that magic can do, and there's a lot of different ones. But when they get similar, they tend to work in the same way. So light weaving shows up in both books. I may change that for Lyre Partenel, but it's kind of integral to that book, and it's kind of integral to Stormlight Archive right now, too. This is one of the reasons why I've decided to either do Dragonsteel or Stormlight Archives as the big epic. Some of the systems have been discovered on different planets, and some of them do work. A lot of them don't, but some of them do. It depends on your spiritual DNA, what people are able to do, and things like that. But if you find a way to do illusion magic in one of my worlds, it's going to work pretty much like light weaving, regardless of which planet you're on, if that makes sense. And so taking that, we can also surmise that if you find a way, like a transformation magic, it's going to work like soul casting.
Okay.
So really, you are, when you're, as an Elantrian, if you're going to create something, you are, quote unquote, soul casting it out of something else. You are changing, and again, you are changing the spiritual and cognitive element of that thing. So in a sense, yes, you are, creating a spiritual and cognitive element, but it's not creation, it's change. Same way as with soul casting, you have to change the soul of the thing. Now, I know with Aeon Door, it looks a lot easier than with soul casting.
Yeah.
But that's because I think when people think of soul casting, they focus a lot more on Shallan's fight with a stick than they do on some of the other soul casting we've seen.
I am a stick. I am a stick.
Yes. And that's like, we see like, oh, this soul casting thing is a hard thing to do, like fighting all this.
Yeah.
But if you watch Yasna with her soul casting, like she's changing humans with like a wave of her hand.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you also have to think about, and this is more how I feel like Aeon Door would work, you have to think about the Fabrials that soul cast as well. Because there is no, like, I don't think the Fabrials are nearly as hard to use as, like, the surge binding of soul casting for the people that are using them. Because when Shallan learns from that one Ardent that was actually a
Soul
assassin.
Oh, okay, yes.
Trying to kill Yasna. I'm trying to remember his name, but it's really not that important. When Shallan learns from him how the soul casters work, he's like, yeah, you just basically touch the thing, touch a stone, change. There's no like push on intent or anything like that, or convincing the soul to change. It's more just instantaneous. And so I think that's kind of how Aeon Door would work. You do need to change something into something, but if you've got your Aeons right, it's not going to be the same fight that Shallan has with her stick.
Wow. There you go.
There it is.
So, in summary, no. They do not create a soul or a cognitive aspect.
Yes.
You're saying they change something and its cognitive and spiritual aspect.
Yes.
So,
if you guys disagree or you have another take,
I don't know if they can.
I don't know if you can either. If I would love for somebody to come in and like find something that contradicts that. So if you've got another take, please let us know.
No, I think you're right. I think you fully convinced me from knowing Chris's first law that it can't be created or destroyed, only changed, to your
and there was another line in here as well that I think Raoden or Galadon uses early on in the book that we've already passed, where they talk about changing garbage into corn.
Yeah. So like,
I couldn't find that line
because I'm probably similar to most people that read this, that when they think about Andor, it's very much like, oh, draw this and this appears, because that's mostly what we see.
Yeah.
Like, they do fire and it appears, but obviously that's just the investiture, how it is presenting itself in the physical realm is that fire. And we also see like light, which just feels very like, oh, draw this and it appears. Didn't think about like food or like all the stuff they create as being more, hey, they're transforming it from this to this. I always just thought like, oh, Aeon, is it Dio? Aeon Dio, gold will appear,
Yeah.
So yes, I agree. Unstable Dawn Shard, great question.
Yep.
Unfortunately, the answer is no. They don't create anything. It is more just a transfer of investiture, a change.
Yeah.
And nothing gets created. So, great question.
Great question.
I think that's all we have for you guys this week. It's been a long episode. So if you've made it this far, thank you for listening. You guys. You guys are the greatest. Jax, where can they find us?
You can find us over on TikTok. You can find us on Instagram. We're also working on getting our YouTube up to date.
Yeah.
We're like we've already said, we've got a good schedule for releasing the audio on Spotify and Apple Music. So those will always come out every Monday. We're gonna get the YouTube to that same point, but on all of those platforms, it's at Into the Coppermind.
Yeah. And join us next week as we dive into the Coppermind. That's a wrap.